What would you do if a massive hurricane destroyed your boat in the middle of the ocean, and the only person with you suddenly vanished? No food, no drinking water, no way to call for help. Just you, a broken boat, and thousands of miles of endless ocean. This is the shocking true story of Tammy Oldham, a girl who loved the sea so much that she chose to live her life sailing. But one journey changed everything. She was stranded in the ocean for 41 days, fighting hunger, loneliness, and something even more terrifying, her own mind, because the person she believed was helping her survive was never really there. The story revolves around a young girl who loves the sea more than anything else in the world. Her name is Tammy Oldham, though most people simply call her Tammy. She belongs to California, but unlike others who dream of a normal and comfortable life on land, Tammy dreams of something completely different. Since childhood, she has been fascinated by the ocean. The endless water, the powerful waves, and the peaceful sunsets make her feel alive. Her love for the sea is so deep that she wishes to spend her entire life sailing across it, exploring the vast waters and living freely. After completing her graduation, Tammy finally decides to follow her passion. Instead of choosing an ordinary job, she joins the world of sailing. Her journey eventually brings her to Tahiti, a beautiful island in the Pacific Ocean. Tahiti is like paradise on Earth. The blue water, bright sunshine, and peaceful beaches make it one of the most breathtaking places in the world. For someone like Tammy, who loves the sea, this island feels like the perfect place to live. While staying in Tahiti, Tammy meets a man named Richard. Richard has been living there for a long time, and just like Tammy, he also shares a deep love for the ocean. The two quickly realize how similar they are. Richard is an experienced sailor who has spent years living close to the sea. He even owns his own boat, which he uses to sail across the ocean whenever he wishes. Unlike most people who fear the ocean, Richard respects it and understands its power. As time passes, Tammy and Richard begin spending more time together. Their conversations mostly revolve around sailing, adventures, and the unpredictable nature of the sea. Richard has built several boats in his life, and when Tammy hears about this, she becomes very impressed. She eagerly asks him countless questions about his experiences. Richard shares many stories about his long journeys and the challenges he faced while sailing. However, Richard also warns her about something important. He tells Tammy that the ocean may look beautiful and peaceful from a distance, but the reality is very different. Life at sea is not as easy as it seems. The days can be extremely hot, and the nights are often cold and uncomfortable. Sailors rarely get proper sleep because they must stay alert all the time. Sometimes they feel hungry for long periods, and when someone stays alone in the ocean for too long, strange things begin to happen. Richard explains that when a person spends many days alone in the sea, they can start experiencing hallucinations. They may begin seeing or hearing things that are not real. The mind becomes confused because of isolation, hunger, exhaustion, and fear. Richard shares these things because he has personally experienced them during his own journeys. Despite these dangers, Richard says that the sea also offers moments of unbelievable beauty. According to him, the most magical sight in the entire ocean is the sunset. When the sun slowly disappears into the horizon and paints the sky with shades of orange, pink, and purple, the moment becomes unforgettable. Richard says that such beauty cannot be described in words. It must be experienced. As Tammy listens to him, she feels even more connected to him. Slowly, their friendship turns into love. The two begin living together on a boat, spending their days sailing and enjoying life. For nearly 6 months, their lives pass peacefully like this. They travel across the water, share stories, and build a strong bond with each other. One day, Richard meets two old friends of his named Peter and Christine. The couple had also come from California, and they owned a very large and beautiful boat. However, they had to leave Tahiti urgently and travel somewhere else. Because of this, they needed someone trustworthy to deliver their boat to California. Peter approaches Richard with an offer. He asks if Richard would be willing to sail their boat all the way to California. In return, they promise to pay him a large amount of money. Richard immediately realizes that this is a very profitable opportunity. Not only will he earn good money, but he will also get the chance to sail a magnificent boat across thousands of miles of ocean. Before making the final decision, Richard shows the boat to Tammy. The moment she sees it, she is amazed. The boat is strong, beautiful, and perfectly designed for long journeys. After discussing it together, both of them decide to accept the offer. Soon they begin preparing for the journey. They carefully purchase all the necessary supplies such as food, water, tools, and navigation equipment. They also study maps and plan the safest route for their voyage. The total distance they must travel is nearly 4,000 miles, which means their journey will take many days at sea. Despite the long and challenging journey ahead, both of them feel excited. This adventure will be one of the biggest experiences of their lives. During this time, Richard makes an important decision. One evening, while they are sailing peacefully across the water, he looks at Tammy and realizes how much she means to him. Gathering his courage, he proposes marriage to her. Tammy is surprised but incredibly happy. She has already fallen deeply in love with Richard, and without hesitation, she accepts his proposal. At that moment, the future seems bright and full of happiness for both of them. However, fate has something completely different planned for them. As their journey continues across the vast ocean, the weather slowly begins to change. At first, everything seems normal, but then they notice something strange. A bird suddenly crashes onto their boat after being carried by strong winds. This confuses them because they are surrounded by endless water with no land in sight. For a bird to reach them in the middle of the ocean, it must have traveled an extremely long distance while being pushed by powerful winds. Soon after this strange incident, they receive a warning through the radio. The message says that a powerful hurricane is forming in the ocean and moving directly toward their location. Hearing this, Richard immediately begins thinking about what they should do. Hurricanes in the ocean are extremely dangerous and can destroy even the strongest boats. He decides that they must change their direction and sail away from the storm as quickly as possible. Tammy, however, believes that they might still be able to escape just like the bird that managed to reach them despite the strong winds. Richard is not fully convinced, but time is running out. They must make a decision quickly. Unfortunately, the decision they make turns out to be the worst possible choice. Within a short time, the sky grows dark and the ocean becomes violent. Massive waves begin rising around their boat, and powerful winds start shaking everything violently. Soon they realize that they have sailed directly into the heart of the hurricane. The waves grow taller and more terrifying with every passing moment. The boat is thrown around like a tiny toy in the middle of the ocean. Seeing how dangerous the situation has become, Richard quickly orders Tammy to go below the deck where it might be slightly safer. But just as Tammy moves downstairs, a gigantic wave crashes onto the boat with unimaginable force. The impact is so powerful that it throws Richard straight into the raging ocean. At the same time, the boat is violently shaken and Tammy is knocked unconscious. When she finally wakes up the next morning, the world around her has completely changed. The ocean is calm again, but their boat is severely damaged and almost destroyed. And worst of all, Richard is nowhere to be seen. When Tammy slowly regains consciousness the next morning, she finds herself surrounded by silence and destruction. The storm that had nearly destroyed everything is gone, but the damage it left behind is terrifying. The boat is badly broken, pieces of wood are scattered everywhere, and seawater has filled many parts of the vessel. Tammy herself is badly injured. Her body aches with immense pain, and she struggles even to stand up. Despite the pain, she forces herself to move because she knows that survival depends on what she does next. The first thing she does is search for Richard. She steps outside and begins looking around the broken boat. The endless ocean stretches in every direction, but Richard is nowhere to be seen. Her heart begins pounding with fear. She starts shouting his name again and again, hoping that somehow he might answer. Her voice echoes across the empty ocean, but there is no response. Thinking that he might have fallen into the water during the storm, she desperately scans the waves around the boat. She even tries using the radio to call for help, but the electronics are completely ruined. Seawater has flooded the communication systems, making them useless. The reality slowly sinks in. The hurricane has destroyed almost everything they had. The sail that helped the boat move forward has been torn apart. Without it, the boat cannot properly travel through the water. The structure of the vessel is badly damaged, and survival now seems nearly impossible. As Tammy struggles to think clearly, she suddenly notices something in the distance. A small emergency boat that had been attached to their main boat is floating a short distance away. For a moment, she wonders if Richard might be inside it. However, reaching that small boat is not easy. If she leaves the main boat and swims toward it, there is a risk that the waves will push her even farther away. If that happens, she might lose both boats and be stranded in the open sea. She stands there thinking carefully about what to do. While looking around the wreckage, she notices a large torn sail lying nearby. It looks similar to the sail that originally helped the boat move forward. Suddenly, an idea forms in her mind. Even though fixing the sail alone seems nearly impossible, Tammy refuses to give up. With great effort and determination, she begins working to repair it. The task is extremely difficult. Normally, several people would be needed to complete such work, but Tammy has no choice except to do it alone. After struggling for a long time, she finally manages to raise the sail again. Slowly, the wind begins pushing the boat forward. Carefully guiding the damaged vessel, she moves it closer and closer to the small emergency boat floating nearby. Once the boats are close enough, Tammy quickly ties a rope between them. Then, without wasting a second, she jumps into the cold ocean water and swims toward the small boat. Her heart is racing with fear and hope at the same time. When she reaches the small boat and looks inside, she sees something unbelievable. Richard is there. He is alive, but barely. His body is severely injured, and he looks extremely weak. Under normal circumstances, surviving such injuries in the middle of the ocean would be nearly impossible. Still, seeing him alive fills Tammy with hope. Using the rope, she carefully brings Richard back to the main boat. She struggles to lift him because he is unconscious and injured, but somehow she manages to pull him aboard. Once he is safely on the boat, she examines his injuries. His leg has a deep wound, and even worse, several of his ribs appear to be broken. Despite these injuries, Richard is still breathing. This gives Tammy the courage she desperately needs. She is no longer completely alone. She believes that as long as Richard is with her, they can find a way to survive. She cleans his wounds and wraps his injured leg with bandages as best as she can. Since Richard is too weak to move, almost every responsibility now falls on Tammy. The next challenge is repairing the boat. Water continues leaking inside, so she uses a pipe to remove as much water as possible. She also tries to fix the broken parts using tape and whatever tools she can find. After stabilizing the boat, she begins studying the navigation maps. Reading these maps is not easy for her, but she tries to understand their situation. According to the map, if their boat were in good condition, they could reach Santiago within about 25 days. Unfortunately, the ocean currents and strong winds are pushing their damaged boat in random directions. This means the journey could take months instead of weeks. Even worse, they are currently floating in a part of the ocean where almost no ships or fishermen pass by. If nobody finds them, they could remain trapped there forever. Food and water quickly become their biggest problems. Tammy gathers all the remaining supplies on the boat. After counting everything carefully, she realizes they have food for only about 2 weeks. The water situation is even worse. Their freshwater system was destroyed during the storm, leaving them with only a few small containers of drinking water. To make things harder, Tammy is a vegetarian. Richard suggests that if she catches fish, they will have a better chance of surviving. At first, she refuses because she has never eaten fish in her life. But as their situation grows more desperate, she realizes she has no other option. She begins trying to catch fish, although she fails many times. Eventually, rain begins to fall from the sky. Tammy becomes overwhelmed with relief. She quickly places every container she can find on the deck, collecting as much rainwater as possible. For a short time, this rain saves their lives. Days slowly turn into weeks. Their bodies grow weaker, and the endless ocean begins affecting Tammy's mind. After about 15 days, their condition becomes extremely serious. Once, she even sees a distant ship and lights a fire hoping to signal for help. But the ship sails away without noticing them. The loneliness and exhaustion start affecting her mental state. Just as Richard had warned earlier in the story, hallucinations begin appearing. After nearly 40 days in the ocean, Tammy's mind creates an illusion. She believes that Richard is still alive beside her, talking to her and encouraging her. In reality, Richard had died during the hurricane when he was swept away by the giant wave. Her mind created this illusion because accepting his death was too painful. Eventually, after 40 days of survival, she finally realizes the truth. Richard is gone, and she has been speaking only to her own imagination. The realization breaks her heart, but it also brings her back to reality. Then, one day, something miraculous happens. She notices another boat approaching in the distance. With her remaining strength, she lights a signal fire once again. This time, the people on the passing boat notice the smoke. They quickly sail toward her and rescue her from the endless ocean. After spending 41 days stranded at sea, Tammy finally survives the impossible. Her story later becomes famous because it is based on true events. Despite everything she went through, Tammy never stopped loving the ocean. Later, she wrote a book about her incredible experience and the man who helped her survive. Even though Richard was gone, she always believed that his voice and encouragement gave her the strength to keep fighting for life.